And that's it. Seriously though, Top G, I find it hard to believe a product of the 80s like you still never saw The Lion King. Anyways, I hope you liked it.
That was horrible!
I'm sorry, what?
The total disregard of life. The grisly massacre of so many innocents. The audacity. The unmitigated gall.
What the Hakuna Matata are you talking about?
And to portray it as comedy is the worst of it. That Timon and Pumbaa consume, nay, murder, thousands of law-abiding insects without remorse or guilt, all under the family-friendly guise of Disney comedy.
You're kidding, right?
Nay, my good sir. The rights of our fellow bugs should not be reduced to comedy. I have a dream this afternoon. The eagle-winged butterfly has landed. Ich bin ein ladybug. Give me praying mantises or give me death.
Dude, they're just bugs.
My friend, Surfer Clock, you are wrong. It is time I teach you the truth. That it is tough to be a bug. Apparently I made a reference of some sort.
Yes, you did. A reference to the 3D movie at Disney's Animal Kingdom. Let's use our airtime wisely, shall we?
If you insist. In an effort to educate the public the significance insects have on our planet and what role they play in the great circle of life, Disney put together this 3D film right in the heart of the park. And since the high and mighty insect often dwells in and out of trees, where better to place the theater than inside the park's icon itself, the Tree of Life? Unfortunately, there was a problem.
Placing a theater inside a giant tree would have been structurally unsound. Several proposals came and went before Animal Kingdom's central designer, Joe Rohde, suggested using a modified oil rig. The tree kept its shape and its structure, and the base was left open for development.
And speaking of development, Pixar was starting post-production on its second animated feature, A Bug's Life. Since using real insects would have been a bit too scary for a 3D show and using Jiminy Cricket, who is more man than insect, would have been a bit off, the latest Pixar movie was a perfect fit.
When you enter the queue, you immediately find yourself wandering amongst the oversized tree roots, as though you are the size of an insect yourself. When the queue ends, you grab your 3D glasses, or bug eyes, and enter the waiting area. Remember, do not put on your bug eyes until you are seated inside the theater.
While waiting for the show to start, take a look at the posters decorating the waiting area. They feature parodies of famous Broadway plays starring insects, such as The Dung and I and Beauty and the Bees.
Oh, and Man Spider, Turn Off the Dark.
Really?
What, jealous?
Yeah, the joke was gold.
So anyway, when you sit down and the show gets started, the show's MC, Flick the Ant, gets things rolling by showcasing a few of Mother Nature's most adapted insects, the tarantula, the termite, and the stink bug. Of course, things don't always go as planned, so watch out for flying barbed hairs, termite acid, and any errant odors.
But all that's just minor stuff until the show takes a dark turn. Enter Hopper, a giant grasshopper with a penchant for nastiness, who breaks in. Disgusted, Flick is wasting his time on humans. You know, the same creatures who use bug sprays, bug zappers, roach motels, pesticides, fly swatters. I'm sorry, I need a minute.
Well, suffice it to say, Hopper wants a little revenge. By sending in bug spray, black widows, and hornets, he's more than happy to bring about a little karmic justice on the humans who wronged him and insect kind for so long. This is the part of the show that gets really intense, especially for young children and arachnophobes. It's dark, loud, and the hornets actually sting you.
Well, not really. The seat has a mechanism that just pokes your back. It's not sharp, but it sure is startling and not painful.
Dave Foley and Kevin Spacey both reprise their roles as Flick and Hopper respectively. Even Cheech Marin cameos as Chili, the short-tempered tarantula. But most importantly, let's ask ourselves this. Considering the dark, terrifying, stinky moments in the show, is this attraction any better than Stitch's Great Escape? And if so, why?
Let me think about that. Yes! Here's the thing that we can compare the two. Yes, it's dark and there's painful moments and there's stinky moments. But here in It's a Tough to Be a Bug, there's two main things. Number one, the story.
The story is so much better than Stitch's Great Escape.
Yeah, you're learning about the insect world. Hopper breaks in, good triumphs over evil. I don't think I'm spoiling anything here.
No.
And we learn ultimately more about insects. Stitch's Great Escape, you're a guard, you fail at your job, just send them to the gift shop. The other thing is the seating arrangement. Here in It's Tough to Be a Bug, you're on a bench. On a bench that goes lengthwise through the theater.
Yes.
But in Stitch's Great Escape, it's a tiny bucket seat with a harness that comes down on you. If anyone wanted to leave the theater, they can do that here. They can in Stitch.
And oftentimes they kind of have to leave because I know a lot of children, they get uncomfortable with it and they start crying and they've got to go. Well, you can't make a quick escape if you're in Stitch's Great Escape.
Let alone a graceful one.
No kidding.
Okay, but let's just focus on It's Tough to Be a Bug for right now. How does it fare?
I think there are times that, we mentioned it does get a little scary. I first went on this attraction when I was 12, back in the year 2000.
Yeah, how'd that go?
It was still brand new, and I was kind of scared. Well, I was scared of everything in theme parks at that point in time.
Honestly, I think the intense elements are appropriate.
Really?
We, as humans, will always be afraid of insects, whether it's appropriate or not.
Sure.
But it's nice to see a show that's realistic enough to show us that insects aren't just cute, cuddly little things that are tough and aggressive and sometimes scary.
Yeah. I think the show has a pretty good message for what it is. It's a good message. It's not a great message.
What's the message again? The best thing about us,
is
you can't live without us.
And speaking of that song, that's a catchy little ditty right there.
Yeah, it is.
I find myself humming that every once in a while, actually. It's mildly humorous, too. I mean, talks about shoulder-high waist.
It is a funny show, and I do get caught up in it and what they have to share. I love the use of the characters from A Bug's Life. I mean, how many other bugs are in Disney's canon besides Jiminy Cricket? You have the Cricket from Mulan and Ray from Princess and the Frog.
That's true.
At least with this, it's so appropriate. You get to see all these bugs. I would have loved to see, like, Slim, Francis, and Heimlich, or any of the circus bugs.
That's true, yeah. They must have, excluded them entirely from the show.
I think it was because since Hopper and Flick were established in A Bug's Life, they just went forward with those two.
Fair enough.
By the time this was put together. And also, they're not really necessary. They're not really needed for the show.
They're more for the story of the movie, not the story of the attraction.
Right. It's Flick's job to teach us what bugs have to offer in the nature community.
Fair enough.
Speaking of Flick and Hopper, the animatronics are awesome. They say Hopper is the most sophisticated animatronic since the witch from Great Movie Ride and the auctioneer from Pirates.
Well, you know who else they say that about? Stitch. Stitch's Great Escape.
And the ride still stinks. A great audio animatronic does not make for a good ride.
No, it doesn't.
I digress.
But there is a little bit of innovative use of the audio animatronics, too. Like, for example, when Flick comes down from the roof.
Yeah.
And you see him peeking through the tunnel.
And you get the fireflies trying to cast their lights on him and they keep missing him. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
But I think that the show as a whole could have used more educational elements.
Well, there's some things where you can't fault the ride for that entirely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sure, it could use a little more of an educational value. It very generally goes over the uses of bugs.
Mm-hmm.
However, considering that the reality of bugs is sometimes a little too intense for most guests, and most guests, they really don't like bugs.
Mm-hmm.
The show is definitely not going to change that for a lot of people.
No,
I think it's more along the lines they want to show just how difficult it is to be in the insect world.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really meant to be like an entomologist dream where you're learning about bugs.
No, but it is Animal Kingdom, and if there's one thing Animal Kingdom specializes in, it's teaching us about the natural world.
I guess they didn't want to get too far into the details.
Yeah, because when you start...
I got it. They want the guests to research it themselves.
Really?
I just had the thought, just right now.
So this is supposed to be like a PBS special. Please visit your local library to learn more about bugs.
Exactly. I mean, they don't explicitly say that in the show. They don't say, oh, go out and learn more about bugs. But it's
supposed to incite
the spark of learning.
Like make us ask, okay, so what else do bugs do?
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. That's why I think Disney didn't want the job of the ride to be to educate the guests.
Because I think having those giant bugs on the screen probably would have been a little much.
Exactly. They want to incite the spark of learning. And I think Walt Disney would have very much agreed with that philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Incite the guests to do a little bit of their own research.
Yeah. Okay, I can see where you're going on that. I ultimately give it a 3.5 out of 5. It's a good ride, a good show, and it's appropriate. I think it could have done a little bit more if it pushed itself.
Sure thing. And I'm going to go ahead and I think it's an okay show. I don't think it's necessarily a great show, and I'm even hesitant to call it really a good show. Mm-hmm. Yes, it has its moments, but I'm not really a fan, and I don't find myself really wanting to go back to it. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a 2.5 out of 5. So that's a 2.5 out of 5 from Surfer Clock,
and a 3.5 from Tap G. Alright, so that being said, It's Tough to Be a Bug welcomes anyone in a wheelchair or a scooter. There's no need to transfer. Assistive listening, reflective captioning, and audio description are all available.
Now, that said, who would enjoy this show the most?
Entomologists?
Probably not. Now, as we said, there's not a lot of real educational elements to the show. It's more for the preteen and up crowd. It can get intense, but there's a lot of funny, interesting moments that shouldn't go ignored. Just be forewarned of the dark, scary moments when Hopper sends his attacks on you.
But regardless, thanks to this show, we can learn so much of what the insect world has to teach us. Right, Timon and Pumbaa?
Slimy yet satisfying. These are rare delicacies.
Oh, right. Well, what about you, Baloo?
You eat ants?
You better believe it. And you're gonna love the way they tickle.
Okay, bad example. Loki, thoughts?
An ant has no quarrel with a boot.
Oogie Boogie, help me out here.
Well, if I'm feeling antsy and I've nothing much to do, I might just cook a special batch of snake and spider stew.
You're all savages!
Thanks for listening. I'm Surfer Clock.
And I am thoroughly disgusted.
And we're What's the Attraction?
Our work is your vacation. Ah, a fly!
Dude, you just killed a fly!
Yeah, flies don't count.